So, welcome to the very first episode of the Washington Wrestling Talk show. I am your host. My name is Mike. Um, I'm going to give you guys a little insight on myself as far as how long, how long I've been a wrestling fan, or just a little insight about myself in this first episode. Um, I am 41 years old. I live in just north of Portland, Oregon, in a town called Vancouver, Washington. The only wrestling that we really get here, especially in Portland, is you get the WWE. They come to town like 3 or 4 times a year, whether it's SmackDown Live, Raw, or NXT. We do have some local promotions. That there's DOA, then there's the West Coast Wrestling Alliance, I think is what they're called, or WCWC. Um, but I grew up as a fan of pro wrestling. Um, I can remember the days of Portland wrestling, back when Don Owens was the announcer and the owner and promoter of Portland wrestling. It was, and when you're a little kid watching this, you see guys like the late Kurt Hennig. The recently passed Dynamite Kid was, a big part of that in that time frame when I was growing up. Rip Oliver, David Sierra, who then was known as the Assassin, later known in Portland as the Top Gun, but that was in the mid '80s. And then you had Billy Jack Haynes. Other guys that came through were Andre the Giant, Rick Martel, basically a who's who. And with Don Owens being part of the National Wrestling Alliance, he would hold super cards, and the big names would come through town like Ric Flair, the Road Warriors, Sting, Dusty Rhodes, just a who's who. But when I moved to a slightly bigger town, that's when I discovered the WWF at that time, and they had the larger than life characters like Hulk Hogan, Paul Orndorff, Andre the Giant, the Junkyard Dog, Roddy Piper. The list goes on and on and on. And then with the advent of cable television, I was able to get the National Wrestling Alliance, on Superstation TBS. And that opened up a whole new world. Guys like Wahoo McDaniels and, Dusty Rhodes, Manny Fernandez, the Rock and Roll Express, the Midnight Express. Growing up also, there was a TV show called Pro Wrestling This Week, hosted by Gordon Soley, Joe Pedicino, and they showcased all the territories, because I grew up in the territorial era of the, early, mid, late '80s. I was fortunate enough to see some of these territories that were broadcast. Some of them did have broadcast in my local television market, like Mid-South or the Universal Wrestling Federation. Of course, you got to see, guys that I saw in Portland, on a much, slightly bigger stage, but they were getting a national coverage. You had the Continental Wrestling Federation, you had the CWA in Memphis, you had Florida Championship Wrestling, Georgia Championship Wrestling, the list goes on and on and on. And then that's when Vince McMahon really took things off. And, as a teen, then came just WCW, WWE, WWF, and then ECW came along. Fast forward to 2001, ECW's out of business, WCW's out of business, TNA comes into effect, comes into the market, and then Ring of Honor comes out, and, New Japan has been around for, 40 plus years, and, I just started watching them very recently, now that they have their own on-demand service. I've also been watching a couple promotions in the UK. One is called Defiant Wrestling, and they show their episodes on YouTube every Sunday. And also, there's a promotion based out of Scotland that I watch called Insane Championship Wrestling. They just had their big show called Fear and Loathing. I believe it was Fear and Loathing 11. Every so often, they get big American stars. Like this year, they had the Briscoe brothers from Ring of Honor, Mark and Jay Briscoe. In years past, they've had Rey Mysterio, Rob Van Dam, the Dudley Boys, Kurt Angle, Mick Foley, Finn Balor. The list goes on and on and on. And it's grown. The United Kingdom scene has grown so much that now there's a WWE NXT UK, and so the guys I've seen in ICW, guys like Candy Williams, Mark Coffey, Joe Coffey, Wolfgang, they're all part of the WWE NXT. And same can be said about some of the guys I saw in Defiant Wrestling, like El Ligero, Travis Banks. The list just goes on and on and on. But I've probably seen more wrestling than I can even begin to count. Not saying that people have seen more than me. But like I said, I grew up in the territory days. Portland was probably one of the more lucrative markets, even though it was so far in the Northwest. But everybody wanted to come to Portland because, Don Owen was the fair promoter. He always paid you, correctly, unlike some promoters, back in the day. We've had, Portland had at the old Portland Sports Arena on North Chautauqua Boulevard, had matches on Saturday, and then they had a flea market on Sundays. And it was because of this flea market I got to know the Barr family. And for those of you who don't know the Barr family, some of you might know who they are. Sandy Barr was a promoter / referee for Portland Wrestling. His sons, Jesse, who became known as Jimmy Jack Funk in the late 80s, early 90s, in WWF and World Class Championship Wrestling. And then the middle son, Art, who would go on to be Beetlejuice. And then the Juicer in WCW in 1991. And then he went to Mexico and became probably one of the hottest acts with his tag team partner, Eddie Guerrero, before Art's untimely passing in 1994 at the age of 28. But if you ever get a chance to see the match that he and Eddie Guerrero had with El Hijo del Santo and Octagon, it took place in Los Angeles. It was a 2 out of 3 falls mask versus hair match, and it was probably one of the greatest matches I had seen. Not to say that the Ricky Steamboat Randy Savage match wasn't awesome from WrestleMania 3, but this one really, because I knew the guy, I knew Art Barr, and then about 2 weeks after that event, they were getting ready to go to Japan. Art was home in Springfield, Oregon, and tragically he passed away. And there's still a lot of conjecture about how he died. But, moving forward, about me, and, I've been to a lot of, like I said, I've been to a lot of WWE events. I was in 1993, I was at the very last show that they had in Portland at the Coliseum. And it was sad because there was only maybe 300 people in a 18,000 seat Coliseum, and it was terrible. And then the WWF didn't come back to Portland again until 2002, and I was at that first show. And later you found out that pro wrestling became deregulated by the boxing, the Oregon State Athletic Commission, because it's more of a show than it is an athletic contest. And of course, I've been to, WrestleMania in Seattle. I've been to, pay-per-views. I've been to TV tapings. I've even met, a few wrestlers. Becky Lynch, of course, I met her at Wizard World Comic Con a couple years ago. So I have some stories that I'll share with you guys. I'm just getting started with this podcast thing. So I know some people in the wrestling business, and I do hope that I can get them to do an interview, whether it be face to face or on Skype, and post it on here. But I'm gonna try to get this thing updated at least once a week, maybe especially with special cases of with pay-per-views from WWE, because you got the WWE Network. Hopefully sometime after first of the year, I'll be able to get New Japan World, which is about the same price as the WWE Network. I can never figure it out because it's mostly in kanji lettering, and I can't get Google Translate to translate it for me. But excuse me. But like I said, if you guys ever want to check out Insane Championship Wrestling, they're also on demand at ICW on demand at pivotshare.com. And for $6.99 a month, you get just more than their shows. They have original interviews. They actually have a sketch comedy that they did, and it was pretty entertaining. So check out ICW Wrestling at ICWWrestling.pivotshare.com to sign up for ICW On Demand. NewJapanWorld.com to sign up with New Japan World. Of course, you got the WWE Network, which you can sign up, get gift cards for pretty much like at Walmart, GameStop, anywhere, big retailer gift cards are sold. But that's pretty much my story here, guys. Let me know what you all think. I wish I could have this a little bit longer, but this audio recording program I have only allows me to do a 15 minutes at max. Also, check out my YouTube show that I have. youtube.com/MikeWah31. You can follow me on Twitter at Mr. J, Jay, 7777. You can add me on Facebook, facebook.com/MikeyJolly. Instagram, which my Instagram handle is given77. But yeah, just check everything out that I have, and y'all let me know what you think. I'm going to get out of here for now, until next time. And if I don't talk to you guys before, I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas. I'm sure I will probably do a special episode, Christmas night, with, even though the SmackDown taping happened, and if you are savvy and you read the results, then you'll know what happens. But if you haven't done that yet, hang on. There's going to be a big surprise for you. A big Christmas surprise for you. And of course, Monday Night Raw is tomorrow night. That also was taped last week. So let me know what you guys want to see, want to hear. Let me know what you want to hear about, and I'm more than happy to oblige to you. Until then, guys, I will talk at you later. Have a great Christmas. If I don't talk to you before, and always keep watching the wrestling scene, because things are about to get real interesting here. Good night, everybody.